Hello everyone and welcome back to my YouTube channel. My name is Nicola and in this video I'm going to be showing you how I set up my sewing machine. Okay, this is my Brother LS14s brand sewing machine. I'll be showing you how I wind the bobbin, installing the upper and lower thread, and also I'll be showing you how I try out a few stitches that the machine comes with, and also to go through some of the other functions as well. Now I'm just making sure that the main power of the sewing machine is switched off before connecting any of the plugs, and once it's turned on you will see that the light comes on and you can start sewing. This is the foot controller that comes with the sewing machine. It basically controls the speed of sewing and to start and stop sewing, so you can just adjust the speed and see what works for you. This is the cable that is attached to the foot controller. So basically what I'm doing is just taking it and attaching it to my sewing machine just like this. And once I'm done, I'm going to take this plug here and connect it to the power supply. This is my Gutterman sewing machine thread. It's 100 meters long and it's 100% polyester. So I'm just going to place the thread on the spool pin. The spool pin is already pulled up completely. Now I'm just going to take the thread and pass it through the thread guide. Once I've done that, I'm just going to take the thread and bring it around the pre-tension disc, as you can see there. There are instructions, so you can see a little diagram on the machine which is quite helpful, that also helps you to show how to set up the bobbin. Then I'm just going to take my bobbin and pass the thread through the hole from the inside, just like this. Alright, now that I've done that, I'm just going to take the bobbin and place it on the bobbin winder, leaving around 3 to 4 inches of thread hanging. Then I'm just going to push the bobbin to the right. Now that I've pushed the bobbin to the right, it activates the bobbin control. I'm now just straightening everything up before winding the bobbin. Now I'm just going to switch the machine on. Once it's switched on, you can see that the light comes on as well. So now it's time to wind the bobbin. I'm slowly applying pressure to the foot controller, as you can see, and the bobbin winds as well. During the time the bobbin is winding, the dial, which is at the side, this one here, also spins. So I will just continue winding until I'm satisfied. Now I'm just taking my scissors to clip that top bit of thread, and then I will just continue winding a bit more thread onto the bobbin. Now I'm going to take my scissors and cut the thread and then switch the machine off. Once I've done that, I'm just going to push the bobbin to the left and remove it just like this. And this is how you wind a bobbin. Now I'm just going to take my thread and pass it through the thread guide, as you can see. Then I'm going to take the thread and bring it downwards, placing it under the upper tension control dial. And then I'm going to bring the thread upwards and bring it around the thread take-up lever, which is basically that little metal thing there you can see. Then once I've brought the thread downwards, I'm going to place the thread behind that guide, which is above the needle. Then I'm going to take the end of the thread and place it through the needle and basically just pull the thread out. Once I've done that, I'm just going to pull the presser foot lever up, and the presser foot comes up. I'm going to take the thread and bring it underneath and behind the presser foot, just like this. Okay, this is how you operate the needle. On the side of the machine there is a dial. So when I turn the dial anti-clockwise, it brings the needle down, and when I turn it clockwise, it brings the needle up. Okay, now it's time to thread the lower section of the sewing machine. I'm just going to remove the bobbin case, and now that I've removed it, I'm going to be taking this bobbin and installing it into the bobbin compartment. So this diagram, it shows you how to install the bobbin correctly. You have to make sure that the thread is on the left side, and then once the bobbin is in the compartment, I'm just pressing it down with my finger and then bringing the thread underneath that slit. After that, I'm just going to take the bobbin cover and close the compartment, and then we're done. Just have to make sure that there's enough threads hanging at the back. So we've got the upper thread and we've got the lower thread. So now we can try out some of the stitches that the machine comes with. I'm using a straight stitch. I've set it on 8 and my thread tension is set to 4. This setting works for me when I'm sewing. I'm now going to secure my fabric underneath the presser foot and then make sure I've got threads hanging at the back. Then I'm going to just bring my needle down, turning my dial anti-clockwise. After that, I'm going to switch my machine on, just like this. Now that I switch it on, you see that the light comes on. I'm just slowly going to apply pressure to the foot controller, and I'm going to sew a straight stitch all the way down till I get to the end of the fabric. Alright, so I'm almost to the end. I'm going to just remove the fabric, and then I'm just going to cut off any bit of threads that is hanging, as you can see. And we finish our first stitch. I'm going to try another straight stitch that comes with the sewing machine, but I'll keep the thread tension the same, which is on 4. Now I'm basically lining up my fabric underneath the presser foot next to the straight stitch that I've already done, and I will use this straight stitch as a guide when I'm sewing. So now I'm going to just apply a bit of pressure to the foot control and start sewing. And I'm going to do a back stitch using this reverse lever. So pressing down, and I'll do a back stitch. Then I'll release the lever and then continue sewing in a straight line. I'll just slowly guide the fabric through and sew all the way down until I get to the end of the fabric, making sure that my presser foot is lined up with the stitch that I've already done. Once I get to the end of the fabric, I'm going to use the reverse lever to do another back stitch and secure the stitches that I've already done. And then I'm just going to take my scissors just to cut off any bits of threads that are hanging. And this is it. I've now finished sewing my second straight stitch. Very simple, very easy. I'm now going to show you how to do a zigzag stitch. I'm now setting my machine on zigzag stitch number 3, and my thread tension is on number 4. Another thing to mention about thread tension is that you don't want it to be too loose or too tight. You may need to adjust your thread tension depending on the type of fabric that you're using, or for example, if you're going to create gathers, you would want to choose a higher tension level. Also, before you start sewing any big project, I will advise you just to test out a few stitches on a scrap fabric, just to make sure that the stitch is right for you and the thread tension is also correct for the fabric as well. And this fabric that I'm using is 100% calico. I'm using it for demonstration purposes, and it is quite handy to have at hand. So I'm almost at the end now. I'm just going to remove my fabric and use the cutter, which is at the side of the machine, to just snip off any bits of threads. And we are now finished with our third stitch. I'm just going to show you one more stitch that comes with my machine. It's another zigzag stitch, and these zigzag stitch, which is on number 5, are called satin stitch. But usually when I'm finishing off my project, I will use one of the other stitches, so like number 3 or number 4, and this does help to prevent my fabric from fraying. It just gives my project a bit more reinforcement. If you do have an overlocker, you can use an overlocker just to serge off the ends of your fabric, And also you can even use pinking shears, and pinking shears are basically a zigzag scissors that does help to prevent your fabric from fraying. So there are different types of methods that you can use. Okay, so we're now at the end of our video, and I hope you guys have learned something. If you've got any comments or questions, just leave it in the comment section below. Feel free to give this video a thumbs up if you like it. Also share and subscribe. And thanks again for watching, and I will see you in the next video. Bye.